One. Welcome to another edition of First Person, again sponsored by the Crystal Room here in Troy. Call 552-7680. Talk to Jessica Brown to schedule your next special event. Whether it's a wedding, a reunion, or just a business meeting, you'll like the facilities, the staff, and the location in the heart of Miami County. It's right there across from the Kroger Plaza on West Market Street. Again, the Crystal Room in Troy sponsors of First Person here on Press Pros. An opportunity to dip back into baseball this week with the head coach of the Versailles Tigers, that being Ryan Schlater on my right. And a special year for you, another 20-win season for the Tigers, crowned with the fact that for the first time in a long time, you got to Columbus. You got to the district, the regional round, you got to the state tournament, ran into a tough Berlin Highland team there. We'll talk about that in a minute, but congratulations on a great year.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a special year, so we got over some hurdles that we had the first few years. I got there and finally made it past that district tournament.
One of the things that it ran through my mind, as I mentioned a moment ago, Ryan, a long time between drinks of water in baseball. It's not that, Versailles is very accustomed to getting to the state tournament. Girls have won there, you've won in football, the boys have been there in basketball, but how much emotion was there, how much nervousness was there, how much just general excitement, tightness, a sense of where you were when you finally got to Huntington Park?
I think the night before, I think the guys were a little bit tight, probably, just with the bus ride and the send-off that we had. There was a lot of excitement going on. Once we got to the Columbus and we did our bed checks going around, I could tell guys were, they were getting a little bit nervous, had a little bit of anxiety about it. But really, once we got to the park, we took some BP and got out there, just let them, get used to the ground, because having minor league park plays a lot different from a high school stadium. And I think we played fairly loose and we played fairly well. I think maybe later on in the innings, we got a little bit more tight, and that shows, we had a little bit more strikeouts and, some mistakes out in the infield. But, I think overall we played fairly well. There was, some tightness that we had, but, I think a lot of the guys that we've had really high pressure situations with, MAC play and Cold Waters and Minster games, that, we've had those kind of games and we kind of were accustomed to it. But like you said, Berlin Highland, they're a great team. So, they can see they won the state championship the next day pretty handily.
They do a lot of sports well up there. I joked on radio. We did, Joe and Eves and I happened to do that game on radio. We joked on. I bet you they play backgammon well there too.
I bet they probably do about anything they want to.
They're a very competitive school. Ryan Schlater, the head baseball coach at Versailles High School, our guest this week on First Person. Before we leave, I also had that sensation that game went by just like that.
Yeah.
I had about an hour and 28 minutes, and we talked a little bit before going on camera about if you had anything to do over, would you have bunted more? Would you have tried to make them make more defensive plays? And you make a pretty good point that I had forgotten. You squared some balls up, hit some balls pretty hard. Unfortunately, part of baseball is sometimes they catch them.
Yeah, and I forget what the box score was, but I think we probably were about equal in what the hits we had against them and they had against us. I think we probably squared up a lot more balls than they did, but a lot of them that Cole had with the bases loaded, that was right to the second baseman, and we had a couple guys with a couple hits, but they're just right where at people.
I want to talk a little bit about baseball in general in your program. You're a young guy, the pride of Graham High School. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody over there in Champaign County.
St. Paris Graham.
Got your boy here this week on First Person. But, you have a great legacy of baseball up there. And we're going to talk more about that here in a moment, about what you're doing to preserve that or keep that going on right now. But, you've got it going on there. You've got young talent coming up, your youth program. Was very just taken by how many kids enjoy playing baseball. Talk to kids kiddingly during the basketball season. You'd really rather, wouldn't you? You'd rather be playing baseball, wouldn't you? And a couple of them actually said, yes, that's a tribute to you.
Yeah, baseball's really big. We are kind of the key to the summer that we have is the Craig Salmon Classic that we have every year, and that's kind of the showcase of youth baseball around Versailles. And it's not just me; it's a lot of the guys that we have volunteering for the Youth Baseball Association with, Bernie Kanapke, Treon, some of those guys that just do a lot of things for the program that's underneath, just the youth program that we have. We had the opportunity to help volunteer with that tournament and doing the concession stand, but there was, all the way down from, I think, 7-year-olds all the way up to 14 and under that we had. And it's just, there's so many volunteers that weekend. We had so many people coming to it, and so many compliments of how that program, how the tournament was run, and I think just the program in general, just how many volunteers that we have that gets kids organized.
You mentioned his name, I'll bring it up again. You can't overlook the impact of having a Craig Stammen.
Yeah.
Because your kids know who he is. He's active still as a major league pitcher now in the Indians organization, and are doing some rehab to get back there. But he does that fantastic fundraiser in January. You raise a lot of money. He comes back, he does the extra things. He's the namesake of baseball right now in your community, and that's a tremendous inspiration for your kids that sets you apart from just about every other community I can think of. When you got a major leaguer from right there in town that they can reach out and touch and talk to, that's good.
Yeah, it kind of puts the Craig's kind of in that spotlight, being from a small town, and all the kids look up to him, but he takes it as well as probably anybody that in the major league right now. Just the way he interacts with the community, the way he gives back to the community, and it's just not showing up one day and doing a big camp. He's in town,
a lot,
yeah. From All-Star break, last year when he was hurt, he came back and he was at his own tournament there when he was hurt. Came back for the North Star picnic that they had up there. He was there. So it's not like he just comes back once in a while. He's there a lot and gives it back all the time. You
got some kids to build upon. As I mentioned, it seemed like it was over in the blink of an eye this year when you get beaten in the semifinals. That's a letdown, but yet you have to be encouraged by what you did accomplish this year in the MAC, in the tournaments, getting to Columbus, and you've got an Austin Kanapke, you've got a Cole Niekamp, you've got some kids like that. Subby's coming back, your catcher's coming back next year. So you got a Keaton McEldowney, you got some kids to build around.
Yeah, another one to add on to that, Curtis Richling.
That's right.
Our first team MAC this past year. We have, I think, 6 out of our 9, everyday starters, somewhere in there. We have them back, and having those guys that played in the level of competition with the state tournament last year, it really helps with just being comfortable with that next step that we have to take next year. We have some JV guys that are ready to fill in some spots that we had some guys that get lost in, but we have enough guys pitching wise, around the infield, outfield that's ready to step up.
More importantly, you got some kids that are going to go back with a little pride of having been to Columbus,
yeah,
and having gotten to the state tournament.
Yeah, and playing with the MAC, about everybody. Menser, probably had some kids that their brothers played in the state tournament, and Coldwater has some kids probably on their team. So, we joined that rank of getting to the state tournament.
Good to have your turn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good to have your turn.
We'll be ready for next year.
All right, Ryan Schlater, our guest this week on First Person. I want to take this opportunity, too, to mention that Richard Wright, a gentleman from Tarpon Springs, Florida, who has moved down there, retired, wrote to us recently and said, I enjoy Press Pros, but I particularly like the First Person interviews because he said, I hear a lot of familiar names, a lot of familiar schools, and he said, I appreciate you doing that and taking the time, and he says that's a good thing to see, and he said, we're still out there watching.
Yeah.
So people like Richard Wright, Tarpon Springs, Florida, we appreciate your support and sponsorship of Press Pros and First Person here, again sponsored by the Crystal Room, as we talked about in Troy. Call them at 552-7680. Jessica Brown is their manager. She'll set you up, give you a tour of the facilities. You'll like what you see, the convenience of being right here in the middle of Miami County, Troy, Ohio. And that's where we're today, talking with Ryan Schlater. We'll be back next time with another edition of First Person. And until then, we'll see you. Have a great week, great summer. Football coming up soon. We'll have it here for you on First Person.